I did 30 years with the highway. I did 28 years and 11 months with the highway patrol. They let me tack my sick leave onto the end of it, which I had a year and a month sick leave. So I had a full 30 years on with the patrol. A couple things we'll get out of the way right now. The North Carolina Highway Patrol history. This is a disclaimer, as I can recall it. Now, I didn't come on in the beginning. I came on in 71. The patrol started in 1929, and there's been a bunch of folks before me. And the patrol, the North Carolina Highway Patrol, is in the top 5 state law enforcement organizations in the United States. And we have been ranked in that area the whole time. Usually the two that get ahead of us is Texas and California, and I think both of those are because they know somebody. But leave that as it may. All right, like I say, this is my thoughts on it. Is that too loud? Okay. It's my thoughts on it, and it's nothing official. If you go out today and say, I heard this trooper stand up and say, well, they're going to look, well, who is he? And they're going to tell them, and they're going to say, I don't know. So, leave that as it may. I'll tell you, like we used to have business cards, and everybody wanted my business card. And because it had Trooper J.G. George and a telephone number and the state seal. And I'd ask them why. Well, if I get stopped, I'll feel it. And I tell them, I said, okay, here's my card. You take that card and $2, and you get a cup of coffee almost anywhere in Greensboro. And that's the way that goes. Another thing, I have this gentleman right here is WSF, Bill Etheridge. He retired in 1990. He worked with a bunch of the old heads, the original members, and he wrote the stuff down. He's still writing stuff down. I talked to him the other day. He self-published a North Carolina State Highway Patrol history, and it is a loose leaf binder type thing. Anyway, I used a lot of his stuff, and I asked him if I could use it. He said yes, and I'm just putting this to say thank you to him for letting me use it, and let y'all know that I didn't do all this by myself. Okay? All right, let's get into it just a little bit. Speed. I was a state traffic cop, basically. And we did a whole lot of other things. But basically, we enforced the motor vehicle law. Chapter 20 in North Carolina, which is the general statutes regulating motor vehicles, speed, driver's license, registration. It's about that thick, the original volume, and it's got some addendums to it, and it makes it about that thick. And I wore one copy out, thumbing through it over my time. First speed restriction was in the 1600s, mid-1600s, New Amsterdam, which is now New York. No galloping within the city limits. And basically what they put that law in effect was to protect the pedestrians on Sunday morning walking to church. Because you got the other folks that were in a hurry to get there driving the buggy and more well off. They had little accidents, wrecks. So it's to protect the public. And that's the first one that I can find as far as reference to speed. The first automotive speed limit was passed in Kent, England in 1861. Now, it says locomotive act. The reason being, in 1861, there was not an internal combustion engine available yet that worked. They were steamers, little bitty locomotives with a steam pot on it and a firebox, and you lit your fire, you got your pressure up, had a little oil on there, and you go and chug, 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 and you ride down the road. No speed greater than 10 miles an hour in the city and 5 miles per hour in the country. They changed that within a year. They dropped it down to 4 miles per hour in the city and 2 miles per hour outside, because you had to have 3 people by law operating your little locomotive. You had to have a driver, somebody to tend the firebox, and a flagman. Guess what the flagman did? He walked in front of it, waving his flag, saying, "We're coming, get out of the way," for the pedestrians and the horses, because it scared the horses to death and some of the pedestrians too. And so, consequently, that was the first speed law, but no more than 4 miles an hour in the city and 2 miles per hour outside. And it gets interesting, because the first recorded, the funny thing, speeding ticket was issued in 1896 in Paddockswood, Kent, England. Y'all may know where this is, I don't. He was charged speed 8 miles an hour and 4 mile an hour zone, and not having to require 2 operators and a flagman. And he was fined 1 shilling. Now, the fellow driving the 1896 Benz, and this is an 1896 Benz, by the way. He was a Benz dealer, and he was out riding through the country, through the city. Riding through the city, and he blew by a constable on his bicycle. That constable ran him 5 miles, trying to catch up with, hollered at him, stop, pull over, you know, you're going too fast, da da da. And when he finally caught up with him, this guy got to where he's going to stop, he got up with him, he charged him. And he charged him with speeding. He charged him with not having the required 3 operators on the flagman and 2 operators. And I think there was another one. They charged him for not paying attention to him while I was panting after him. "Whoa, stop!" Pedaling that bicycle. But anyway, this guy was he was somebody. He, like I say, he was a dealer in the township. And they changed the law shortly after that and dropped the requirement to have the flagman and the fireman in the little locomotives, because they had the internal combustion engine. All right. 1901 was the first speed limit in the U.S., the state of Connecticut. 12 miles an hour in the cities and 15 miles an hour in the country. Now, y'all think this is nothing. Well, this is a whole lot for back then when you think what's there. In 1907, North Carolina had its first traffic law come about, and it's still close. All persons riding I guess it's bicycle, tricycle, locomotive, steam car, automobile or other motor vehicle will keep to the right and not exceed 6 miles an hour in a built-up area. And that's pretty much the basic speed law at the time. You didn't get in a hurry, because it wouldn't run that fast. But even back then, folks were running together with them, and folks were getting hurt, folks were getting killed. So, speeding in North Carolina, we'll talk about that. Traveling, the basic speed law is traveling too fast for existing conditions. And that used to be a catch-all phrase for us on somebody have a wreck, whether they're off the road, exceeding the safe speed, too fast for existing conditions. It's now, since I've retired, they added another statute in the book that says, fail to maintain a proper lane. And now that's the catch-all. When you start doing statistics, and that's what we figured everything on the patrol was the statistics. Our main goal was to reduce traffic fatalities. And it was like climbing a mountain. You take 3 steps up, you slide back 2. I didn't feel like we ever got ahead of it. Sometimes we'd hold it, but, and Dave was talking a while ago about, seeing the flashing lights on the highway. Tell me, 2 things you don't want to see. You don't see a trooper in your back, in your rear mirror with the lights on, and you don't see a trooper on your front porch at 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, I've done both of them, and that second one is not fun at all. Okay. Traveling in excess of the posted speed limit is considered a violation of the absolute speed law. No, absolutely, you won't run any faster than 45 miles an hour, because the signs out there says no. basically you won't drive too fast in existing conditions. The absolute speed limit in North Carolina is 55 in the country and 35 in the city, unless otherwise posted. Otherwise posted covers the interstate and some of the city limits. I know in Greensboro they've got 40, 45 mile per hour zones somewhere, and a couple of 55, nowhere to look. But that is the absolute speed law. All right, vehicle registration. Now we're starting to talk about why we came about. And it has to do with safety, and it also has to do with revenue. Vehicle registration. In 1909, in North Carolina, you could voluntarily register your vehicle with the state, your motor vehicle state, and be issued a license plate number. And then you got to go do your thing and make any kind of plate you wanted to, because it's a homemade plate. You got the ticket with the number on it, you wrote and you hung the plate on your vehicle, and you were registered in North Carolina. And I think they charged something like, at that time, about 50 cents to do it. In 1913, they made it mandatory to be ready to have a license plate to operate the vehicle on the road. Reason being, vehicles becoming more popular. I think they had about 1,000 motor vehicles in the state then, in 1913. But they were chewing up the road, so you need to find some way to get a little money to patch the mud holes. Yeah, you all know about farming the road, don't you? In some of the poorer sections where a highway or roadway went through, if it went through your property, a farmer would get out there and he would take his plow and he would plow in the ditch. And he'd get it real good, and he'd give him some water and make it really soppy. And then here comes Joe Blow, citizen, down the road riding on the highway, and he'd hit the sloppy spot, and he'd sink up and he'd get stuck. And the farmer would be sitting over there with a team of mules saying, "Brother, if you got a quarter, I'll pull you out." And it worked like that. But that was farming the road. 1,000 vehicles in 1913. By 1921, there were over 400,000 registered vehicles in North Carolina. And you can see how it's increasing, and it's been increasing like that ever since. In 1930, we talk about, if you don't do well, you'll end up making license plates. Well, the Department of Corrections in Central Prison in Raleigh, they had a license plate print shop. And they, by law, they do all the license plates in North Carolina. And by the way, this right here, this is a 1913 license plate. If you notice, it expired in June 30th, 1914. And there were two of them, one on the front at the time and one on the back. Okay. Bunches of traffic, bunches of wrecks, bunches of revenue lost because somebody wouldn't buy a plate. There got to be a call for a state constabulary. I can't say that word for some reason. Yeah, that's the word. But anyway, a state law enforcement agency to enforce the liquor laws, monitor and regulate traffic, and issue driver's license due to the increase in the vehicles. So, from 21 to 29, there are a bunch of bills introduced to create a state police force. In one bill, I think it was in about 25, said a force of 50 men to cover the entire state. They had in the bill $20,000 to use the seat money to get it started, and then from there on, it'd be self-support because of the fines from liquor law violations. It failed. A lot of the people wanted it, a lot of people didn't. The ones who wanted it was because they could see bringing in the revenue, this kind of thing. The ones that didn't want it didn't like the idea of a state police force because they figured the locals thought of it as local law thought as a competition with them for what they were doing in their individual county. But they also was worried about the fact that we'd become for the manufacturers and everything, we had big textile mills in the state at this time, and had a bunch of strikes, that we'd become strike breakers, and used it for that. And I can do that to me, okay. 14 March 29, North Carolina Highway Patrol comes into being. By the way, Guilford County in 25, the Sheriff's Department had a section, and they called it the Guilford Highway Patrol. That's the only evidence talking about Highway Patrol that I find anywhere with the name Highway Patrol. The state police, state law, anybody want to take a guess on what the oldest state police organization is? The Texas Rangers. Founded in 1835, and they had one unit to protect the range. And that was their whole justification for being there. And yeah, I read that history, they were a tough bunch. This crowd coming on now turned out to be a pretty tough bunch too. Okay. The Hargett-Harris bill passed in 14 March 29, and it called for the formation of, I call it the North Carolina Highway Patrol, consists of 37 members, a captain, 9 lieutenants, and 27 patrolmen. And their duties were limited to enforcing highway laws, aiding the motoring public, and attempting to increase motor vehicle safety. And the bill passed. The reason being is the Carolina Motor Club and some of the insurance agencies right there had got behind it, and they finally worked their way through. So the Highway Patrol was formed technically 14 March 1929 by that bill. So who do we get? The captain. This is the commander of the Highway Patrol 1929. He's C.D. Farmer. He's his qualification, he's one-time chief of the Raleigh Fire Department. He was, and I think this is the reason he got the job. At one time, he was the superintendent of the machinery division for the State Highway Commission. And the third thing about him, found out about him, he was a part owner of farmer and coal plumbing at the time of his appointment. In other words, he was a plumber. But he was a smart man. He was a businessman. And he had no law enforcement experience. But that's him. And to some folks, he's known as the father of the Highway Patrol because he had sense enough to deal with the folks in Raleigh and try to make things better. The lieutenants, 9, all with some law enforcement experience from across the state. And one of them was a car dealer, but he worked as a fee deputy. And a couple of them were on up in the, Raleigh and the Durham Police Department. And so, but all of them had some law enforcement experience. This is a terrible picture, but this is a 1929 Model A Ford. And this is what the lieutenants all drove. The captain, who you saw earlier, he got to drive a Buick. All right, and these are the patrolmen. Now, that badge you saw, that opening, that was the first badge I ever wore. That was issued to me, and it said patrolman across the top. These were patrolmen. We didn't start calling troopers until 1983, and then due to the fact that we had different. Come on in. Different genders of folk and everything. We got rid of the patrol man and became troopers. But in the beginning, they were patrolmen. They had 600 applicants for the patrol. 67 of them got accepted. They reported to Morehead City to an abandoned army base. It had been abandoned for 10 years as federal property, and it was trashy to say the least. They spent most of their time either studying or trying to make a comfort enough where they could sleep. 21 flunked out due to the physicals. In other words, the PT and other things. 7 quit because of the KP. and the chores that they had to do. And one got sent home because of the itch. Now, I'm not going to begin to guess what the itch is, but I'll leave that to y'all's vivid imagination. We graduated 38, swore in 27. The others were on standby. If a vacancy showed up, they'd take it. And this right here is W.W. Stone, and he retired as a lieutenant in Greensboro. I've met him in about 70, 71, if I remember correctly. Been a while. He stayed on a long time. This vehicle he's riding on right here, this is a 1929 Harley Davidson motorcycle. And it was top of the line ride back then. The seat on it was about this broad, had big coil springs under it, and was not comfortable. And they rode on that thing 13 hours a day. Let's see, while I've got this nub, I gave you a warning. And I changed, let's go back. But this right here is a Carbon Tech fire extinguisher. He had a box on the back right here that held his notes. On the other side, they ended up with a satellite that had a first aid kit and also some communications gear. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, the training. This North Carolina Highway Patrol's original training criteria was based on the Pennsylvania State Police. At the time, the Pennsylvania State, and y'all here in Pennsylvania, y'all want to be proud. And back in the 20s, y'all had the #1 state police organization in the United States. But the 9 lieutenants and 1 captain went to Pennsylvania, and they put on a 4-week school for them to show them what they did as far as training their people. And they came back and developed the criteria for the North Carolina Highway Patrol. And like I say, the school was held in Camp Glen. A portion of the training was trying to make their barracks livable, and they did their own cooking. That's the reason the guys quit, the 7 quit, they didn't like to do KP, they couldn't cook. So this is a 1930 guide. This was the book they went by. And it contained the official map of the State Highway Commission and municipal traffic laws and general information. The Highway Patrol was under the State Highway Commission at this time, when it first came about. And as you say, there's 9 lieutenants. They had 9 districts. The State Highway Commission had 9 maintenance districts. And so the patrol districts corresponded to the Highway Commission's maintenance districts. Consequently, all the patrol offices and everything were in Highway Commission buildings. Usually it was a closet somewhere. It had enough room to put a desk and a chair in for the troopers to sit. And he issued driver's license and other things while they were working at it. The training had several general orders. First one I love: no hiding behind buildings, in lanes, or trees to apprehend violators. And we used to hide like Scotland's dog. People don't realize it, but hiding a patrol car is hard because people look for them. I don't know why, but the state, in their infinite wisdom, in about 1987, 88, 3 of them came out with reflectorized plates. And we had a plate on the front of the patrol car that says, "State owned, welcome to North Carolina." And you can see that thing 500 yards when you back up on the hole. All of a sudden, you'd be riding down the road, and all of a sudden, you see a little square light pop up down there, and you knew right then that it was a patrol car. The older car plates didn't have that. But we had a bunch of spare cars that had them old plates on them. They got them new plates pretty quick. In fact, I've still got one of the old plates at the house. One of the few things when I retired, I quit. I mean, I packed my stuff up, took it to them, said thank you, and I left. Okay. we've been there. Let's go forward. Let's see if I can go forward. No, that's backwards. Y'all forgive me. I'm still learning. Okay, the general law, no hiding. Always abide by the traffic laws you enforce. Somebody said, well, Jim, I see patrol cars blow by and without the light and the siren, where are they going? Well, 95% of the time they're on call. You find, as a rule, that it's easier to get from point A to point B without calling a whole lot of attention. You said you can weave your way through traffic, and everybody fusses, and we get buku complaints. But when you're the guy in the wreck waiting 40 miles down the road for the trooper to get there, you're happy he's coming just as hard as he can. Yes, you can turn the light siren on, but usually the way traffic is nowadays, it just clobbers stuff up because everybody slows down and stops right there. Happened to me one day, I was hauling, we used to do what's called 10-5s. A 10-5 was you carried something like blood, eyes. I have all skunk's heads, believe it or not. And a 10-5 is a relay. If I initiate a 10-5, somebody called me and said, Jim, go by our Moses Cone Hospital and pick up, and one time is pick up a hip joint, a replacement. They got the guy down in Salisbury, they got him on the table and started working and realized they didn't have the right equipment. And so that comes in as a 10-5E. So that means lights and sirens as hard as you can go. So I, in 10-5, I went to Moses Cone, picked it up, drove down to the county line, met a trooper there, he took it, and you just hand it. And there's been we have moved stuff all the way across the state at sometimes like that. But that's just part of the job. Eyeballs, they are the, what's the word? The cornea. When a person dies and donates the organs, they take the cornea and they keep them in the eye bank in Durham. So somebody says, okay, we're going to do a cornea transplant somewhere up the road, and we don't have one in stock. They call us, we go by the eye bank, pick it up, and it'd be a 10-5. And that was usually a 10-5R. It wasn't an emergency, it was just we rushed it on down. So I've always thought, they talked about 10-5 and R's. And to give it to you in a little round, Coleman cooler. And I said, over the floorboard. And I'm going down the road, and I'm running a little bit fast, and this car goes out in front of me, and I have to jam on the brakes. And the cooler turns over. And the lid pops off. And I expected to be looking over and see two eyeballs there. But it wasn't. It was two little plastic cups. Nothing got hurt. I packed it back in the ice very gently, put the cooler up in the seat, put a seat belt around it, and we went on down the road. That's just one of the things. Okay. Always abide by the traffic laws you enforce. Properly report any menace to the motorist. Render assistance to the motoring public. Be courteous at all times. Refrain from vulgar language. And consumption of alcohol or smoking on duty was forbidden. They would fire you if they felt like it was in violation of any of these rules. When I came home, they talk about your workers' rights, Well, I worked for a first sergeant in the district I came home from, and he'd look at you and he didn't like the way you was doing. Jim, you're fired. All he had to do was call the captain and say, I just fired George today. Send somebody to pick up his car. And that was it. That was back in the days when the first sergeant ran the place. Okay. Part of the school, we talked about that motorcycle a while ago. Part of their schooling, they did a 1,000-mile trip. They rode from Morehead City, where the first school was. They went up on the north side of the state, all the way up to Asheville, came back down through, I won't say they came through Silva, if I remember, but then back down to Charlotte. From Charlotte, they went down to Fayetteville. From Fayetteville, they went on down to Wilmington, and then came up back to Raleigh. And they got there on the 29th, and the guy got sworn in on the 1st. And this is the first 37 highway patrol. And a good-looking bunch. Tough as nails.
As you notice, they all had the milk. Somebody asked me about my hat. They all wearing what I call the milk driver's hat. I mean, and they wore that to about 1934. Here's one. This guy right here, if you can see, got a bow tie. You can do bow ties or do the necktie. I threw this in just to give you some idea. They started here, went here, over here, 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 and back up here, and they did it all in 5 days. And it rained every day, and they didn't have rain gear. When they got to Asheville, they bought up everything they could find individually to get the rain gear. This is a district. This is the Highway Patrol District. 3 patrolmen and a lieutenant. And like I say, tough bunch. In the beginning, the patrol was not highly regarded. Some thought of the concept of a state police was limited to being a strike-breaking agency for industry. Local law enforcement didn't like it because they thought it was going to be a rival, not an ally. And the motoring public was not familiar with the traffic enforcement concept and largely ignored it until they got stopped. When it was formed, we came on the State Highway Commission, and like I say, there were 9 maintenance districts. We were referred to at the time as road sheriffs or the state man. And where I come from, up in Stokes County, the troopers up there was 2 of them, were known as the state man. And let me tell y'all one thing. With children, my mama used to say, Jimmy, if you don't look good, that man will get you. That man will get you. And they probably would. Back then, they probably would now too. But the thing about it is, if something happens and the kid needs help, he don't come to the trooper or the man in uniform because he's scared of him, because that man's going to get you. I've heard people say it, and I've called them on it before. We had a case, a lady had a mental breakdown. She had her 3 kids with her when I was 3 years old. The little girl was 4 and the little boy was 6. And she got down the woods down here off 68, and the GPD was looking for them. And I heard it on the scanner, so I went down to see if I could help. And we found the little boy and the little girl, the old little girl. And the little boy says, my sister's there, in there. And this kid, she was in a diaper. And we finally found her. She wouldn't come to us. She'd run from us. And it was in some rough going. Anyway, we got the little boy, and he went down and got her by the hand and held her till we come pick her up. But that was what, you don't mess with them, they'll get you if you don't get it right. And so that's just one little thing on my part. Don't teach kids to be scared of law enforcement. All right. The equipment. We've talked about the 29 Buick. We've talked about the Model A2, the 61 cubic inch Harley Davidson. They were issued 1 pair of trousers, 6 shirts, a cap, leggings, and 1 blouse, and a Sam Brown belt, and also a 38 Smith & Wesson M&P. Shoes were not included. You had to buy your own shoes. Your leggings made them look like boots, but that's the way it was. This is a hat badge, and this badge has not changed since 1929, except for this number right here. Originally, they had the number, and they put it on the car. The guy that wore the hat number, badge number 97, also drove the vehicle number 97. It used an identifier. But they found out it was costing so much because the patrol did start increasing in number. It was costing so much that they dropped the number at about 100, I think it was 140. Anywho, the job, what they did. This is the first fatality on North Carolina Highway Patrol. It was going to his youth. They had the big get acquainted rally. They rode 1,000 miles. They went to Raleigh. They got sworn in. They started to the duty station. I think his was married. They stopped overnight, called back on. There's 3 motors and the lieutenant riding down the road. 14-year-old in a Model T Ford pickup with no brakes came through an intersection, hit him, and killed him. That's George Ira Thompson. He's been on patrol less than a day. Been sworn in. Citations were few and arrests were few. They were told not to write speed tickets. Don't do anything chicken. What they wanted to do was look for vehicle law violations, registration violations, and murder, reckless driving, the things that were shown up. They didn't have a speed time back then. And also, if you notice, none of these vehicles that you see have antennas on them. So how did they communicate? Communication back then was by telephone, telegraph, or by word of mouth. And that was it. So one thing I didn't mention, when these guys got out of school, they issued them a pair of climbing spikes, a telephone with a headset, and a safety belt. Because telephones weren't all that popular in parts of the world. Usually if you found one, you found it at a country store. Or if somebody had one in the house, everybody in the world used it. And if you want to use somebody's telephone, you ask them, say, can I use your phone? I need to call you. If you didn't, they climbed a pole, clipped on wires, and you hang it up there by your safety belt. And when you clip in, the operator comes on and says, operator, give me VR 549. I need to report something. And that's the way it worked until about 1930, well, actually, 1947. We had started to get two-way communication. We had one-way communication in 1937. We also had, in 1934, we had 40 Ford Roadsters. They had bulletproof glass in them. And somebody said, bulletproof? Why? Well, people shoot at you back then. Bootleggers especially. E.W. Jones, bless his heart, he was a colonel on the highway truck. His nickname was Hose Nose. His nose was, it was something to behold. He could eat a hot dog, put mustard on it, and he could put it like this right here, and the tip of his nose would be in the mustard. And I never will forget, Robert Compton said, Robert's dead and gone now, but it was a state fair, and Robert said, I had lunch with the colonel today. I said, yeah. He said, yep. He was eating a hot dog. And I said, look, I looked at him, and his whole end of his nose was yellow. I said, Colonel, you got mustard on your nose. He said, oh, yeah, it is a problem sometimes. He wiped his nose and went on about business. So. But be that as it may. Anyway, they were issued a roll of dimes if you found a payphone, and climbing spikes if they could. They rode the district. Every community they went to, most every community had a post office. So what they do when they got in, let's say we went to rode to Somerville. Well, first thing you did, you go find the postmaster and get him to stamp your logbook. But they issued a logbook. Get him to stamp the logbook with a postmark. Because if you think about your postmarks, they've all got a date on them, the day and date. And that way, when the lieutenant came around about once every 4 to 6 weeks, first thing he asked for was your logbook. And you realize your logbook, and he could thumb through and see that you were in fact traveling your district. They also issued a receipt book, and they had receipt books until 1962. And the troopers could take money. They could take money for a driver's license. They could take money for registration, and they could collect for bad checks. They also did gasoline inspections. And I don't know how they did that, but they saw that some of the stores, they found out put a little bit more water in the gasoline than it really needed, so they come by and take a sample every now and then and say, okay, you need to clean this up, and pay the tax on it. All right. Have I confused everybody so far? Okay, let's see if we want to, I'm going right, yep, here we go. Okay, 31, the legislature passed the driver's license requirement. And when they did that, we went from the Department of the State Highway Commission to the Department of Revenue. And at which point, we had to get out of the State Highway Commission offices. We got thrown out, actually. And went to work for the Department of Revenue. That's where we started picking up money for driver's license, collecting fines, and chased people down and written the state a bad check. And they collected sales on fuel tax. And what happened is, if a guy comes to see you and said, I need a driver's license, and you'd look at him and say, okay, can you drive? Well, I drove up here, I said, okay, you can drive. Give me $1. And you give him $1, and you write a receipt. And it was a 3-copy receipt. You gave him a pink copy, you kept the yellow copy, and the white copy, along with the $1, went in an envelope and went to Raleigh. When Raleigh got it, they took the information off the receipt and mailed the guy a driver's license. But up until that time, he could drive on that receipt. We kept the milkman uniform cap until 35, and we had a helmet. And if you look right up here, these two guys right here, they're both wearing what, as near as I can tell, it was a World War I aviator helmet. But they wore that when they was riding them over. The biggest thing that kills our people were the wrecks. We've had some that's been killed by hostile action, but most of the time it's trying to do your job, going to a wreck, trying to go help somebody, and something happens. Something bad happens. I lost some good friends of mine on account of that. Anyway, but going back talking about, we was talking about bulletproof grass a while ago and E.W. Joe. He was driving one of those coupes with the bulletproof grass, got out the bootlegger, and he said, I know it works. And somebody asked him why. He said, well, they put 3 rounds in my windshield right where my head was, and I didn't get hit. And so he said, Colonel, what'd you do? He said, I turned around. I said, oh, no fool. And he says, you know what it means. And he let him go, in other words. That happened too. Okay, in 34, we went from Harley Davidsons to Indians. We kept the motorcycle till 1937, although there's some evidence that they were used as spare vehicles up until about 1945. If your car broke down, you took it to the garage, went to the garage, picked up a motorcycle and rode it until you got the car fixed. They didn't teach a whole lot of motorcycle riding on the patrol. They expected you to pick it up. The guy that got killed, Howard Thompson, he was the best motorcycle rider they had. But he just had 15, all right. I've got my first time on it. Okay, in 33, I told this in 1933, the federal government gave us 100 Thompson submachine guns. When I came on, I got to do a familiarization with it. I got to fire 10 rounds out of the thing. And it's a trip. It really was. When I graduated patrol school, they sent me to the governor's mansion. They had a Thompson at the governor's mansion. And it was nice. It was a 1928 model, Navy model, had a 50-round drum that wouldn't work. So one night I didn't have anything to do. I took it apart and fixed it. And when you work on a weapon, then you have to test fire, right? Well, they had two 50-round boxes of 45 ammo in box. I said, well, so I got off, I loaded all that gear up plus the ammo. I went out to the rod release range and I test fired it. Do you guys know how long it takes a weapon that fires 650 rounds a minute to run through 100 rounds of ammo? It don't take long. And all of a sudden I realized there I had burned up all the mansion's spare ammo for the 40 for that, and I had to go tell the lieutenant. And, that was not fun. That was not fun. Okay, fun fact. This one right here I like. And I went backwards, but anyway, I didn't point this out to you. This right here is probably the biggest truism that you Okay. A car's weakest part is the nut holding the steering wheel. Now, y'all think about that. Because that's the truth. All right, here we go. Firearms, this was the original weapon issued, 38 caliber with a lanyard swivel. A lanyard is a little rope that runs around your shoulder and clips into the bottom of that. So if you drop your weapon while you're riding your motorcycle, it don't fall on the ground, it flops around with you and you can retrieve it. And there are several pictures back where if you look real close, you can see that they in fact did wear the lanyard. It's also, if the fellow got hold of it just right, you can sling you all over the world with it. When I retired as carrying a Beretta 40 caliber, 10 rounds of magazine and one up the spout, and a Beretta 1200 FP 12 gauge. And this is I taught firearms for the last 12 years as on patrol. And speak to a couple things. Number one, that's a fine shotgun. It kicks like a scalded dog. Semi-automatic, 6 rounds in the magazine, one up the spout. I could put a half-pound shot down range in less than 3 seconds. If I had to, unfortunately, in my career, I didn't have to. The other thing is, you hear a lot of shooting incidents, and somebody says, well, why didn't they shoot the gun out of his hand? And well, that's a lot of television. When we taught firearms, we taught shoot till the threat stops. You shoot for center mass, because that's the biggest part. This bit where we're going to drop a round and somebody's going to hit somebody in the hand. If it happens like that, it's pure blind luck. Trained officers in a firefight usually occur within this close, me to her, 2 people shooting at each other. If you're trained, you might hit your target 22% of the time. If you're not trained, you're only going to hit your target 11% of the time. And this bit where you see these guys have to be like just dancing around, but like I said, I was lucky. I was never involved. I never shot anybody. I got real close one time, but never shot anybody. Never got shot at, I don't think. I did take a round and go on my personal vehicle once upon a time, but I think it was just a stray. Hope it was in it. Okay. First radio receives in the car in 37. This, if you can see it, and this is a terrible picture, but this is a GE radio, 4-channel, that's what I had when I came on. I could talk to Greensboro and car to car and Salisbury and car to car, according to where I put this button right here. Siren button. I've been down the road, you also hear something go behind you. Well, that's somebody pushing this little button right here. Because on top of the patrol car, when I came on, I had a CJ-185 Federal speaker siren. And there was that 4 bobbin lights, the bubble gum machine. I could turn it to wail. I could make it woo, wail, and I'd make yep, 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 yep. If I had it in this position and I wanted to talk, I could take this mic right here, turn the gain up, and I could talk to you while I sit in the car. Nobody ever paid attention to it, but I could. The handset, this is a microphone, and it looked just exactly like a old telephone handset. Because we had a speaker in the earpiece. If you run down the road running 100 miles an hour, it's hard to hear what's going on the radio. So you cradle it up here on your shoulder while you're running, and you can hear what was going on. This is a 900 breathalyzer. It says 900A, but it's a 900. North Carolina in the early 60s on up to now. We arrested as many drunk drivers as Texas and California does. We usually third in on account of people volume. But driving drunk, DWI, driving while impaired, DUI, driving under the influence. It was the leading cause of people getting hurt badly after the speeding. And What time we got?
10.
Got 10 minutes, okay. Quickly, I'll show y'all somebody. I don't know what happened. I got out of patrol school in 1971. Former Reverend got married the day I got out of patrol school. Been married to the same gal for 50, she'll fuss at me if I get it wrong, but anyway, better than 50 years. This is a classic Class A uniform. The blouse, the pants, had a stripe down the side. This was, let's see, this is summer uniforms. That was a Stratton hat, and Sam Brown belt. That's a Colt 357 Magnum revolver. On this side over here would be a set of handcuffs and some spare ammo. You will never see this uniform on the road. The only time you'll ever see this uniform is you go to the governor's inauguration. Because when I came on, we issued everybody one of these. And after about 10 years, I couldn't get this thing if I tried. And although I did wear it, when I was working, I wore it. If I was working for Christmas, I wore it. Working New Year's, I wore it. It was a pain, but it looked good. I was proud of the organization. I was. It was good to me. And I felt like I was doing something for people. I like to help people. Some people didn't believe I was helping them, but or didn't want to be helped. Be that as it may. But this is a Class A uniform. This is a summer uniform. Straw hat. The pants were a lighter color in the summer than when we switched on October 1 as a rule. But from a straw hat to a J.B. Stetson beaver. And once again, this is a 12 rounds of pistol ammo right here, and what's called a dump pouch. You pop it open, and 6 rounds will fall out in your hand. And once again, that 357. That holster is not issued. I had a buddy of mine who made them, and he sold me one. They were issued, the state issued holsters had snaps on the back of them, and so you could take it off without having to undo your belt and everything. Problem being with it, if you got into, well, one of my classmates at patrol school, Larry Walton, he got in a fight with a little old boy named Danny Oxendine down in Roland, North Carolina. Danny ripped his holster off, got his pistol, and shot him 6 times in the face. It was a closed casket. But anyhow, so the one I had, you had to thread it to get it on there. Okay. This is just another day at the office. This is the last day I worked in it said D3 on the first slide. This is E4. They changed the True B District 4. They changed the numbering system in some of the district boundaries. But I was leaving Winston-Salem. We used to carry a scanner in the back of my patrol car with Winston-Salem frequencies in it. And this little old boy decided he wanted some beer and some money. So he took his .25 automatic and walked into this convenience store and stuck a gun in the clerk's face and said, "Give me the money." Well, while the clerk was trying to get the money out, somebody walked by and saw him, so they called it in. The police got there. I heard the call come out, and I was 2 blocks from where it was happening, so I eased on low. I got there, I heard the scanner say, State's got the back. And somebody said, "Look out, he's coming out." About that time, bam, bam. And the dude walked out. What's the same also on this side of the entrance, on this side of the entrance. The both of them said, "Drop your weapon." And he goes, and they both shot at the same time. One hit him in the ear, hit him right back here in the back of the head. We worked on that man for 45 minutes trying to stabilize him, to get him, and the bullet, they clipped his back of his spinal cord, according to the doctor. And we could keep him going as long as we was doing CPR. But he died at the hospital. And this is a typical night. This is a fatality on the west side of Winston-Salem. A couple things. Number one, do y'all happen to recognize this handsome man right here, this firefighter? That's me. firefighter from about 1968 till 2004, I believe it was. But anyway, this guy right here, this is Robert Compton. Robert's passed on now. But one thing I want to know, this flashlight, see the flashlight right here? That is a sportsman, railback sportsman. Three-cell flashlight, hit about that big. You had to use your carry in your left hand up like this when you walk up to the car. It would last, the batteries would last about a day, a night. If you work night shift, you change the battery about every 2 days. And it's the first thing you hand if you have to decide you're going to have to hit somebody. And usually when you hit somebody, the head would fly off and the battery would fly every which way. I saw one trooper one night, he had a perfect round indentation right here where he hit him inside, where the flat bed inside all bars. And I did one. Okay. 64 Ford, 69 Ford. These things had no power steering, couldn't turn around in a 40-acre field, but they would run like a scalded dog. This siren up here is the old style, what we call a hornet's nest. And it made that, I mean, as long as you held that button down, you had a button in forward, as long as you held the button down, it would squawk. And this is a 78 Plymouth, and this is a terrible picture of it. That's the fastest patrol car I ever drove. And I clocked myself one night, I had a guy. Signal 25 for us was, I need help, come help me, because I'm getting my tail beat. And he called Signal 25, and I was down the road west. I went up the West Nassau Bridge going north on 52, and hit my VASCAR switches twice, and I run 138 miles an hour. And I've ridden faster. I've been carried faster than that, but I've never driven any faster than that in my time. And this is a 2024 Mustang. Things have come a long way. All right, patrol cars. And I want to run this one. It'll run. Come on.
One of the country's largest and most modern law enforcement organizations is the North Carolina
1956
Patrol. Nearly 600 men patrol over 70,000 miles of highway. When an accident report comes in, these highway patrollers move out in a hurry. The North Carolina Highway Patrol is prepared to go anywhere, anytime, to protect users of North Carolina's fine highways. And they get there. Now meet Colonel James R. Smith, the patrol commander.
Our job is to enforce North Carolina's traffic laws. It's a big job. That's why our cars have to give top performance in every kind of driving situation, and at the same time, give our men maximum protection.
And here in Houston, Texas, Ford goes first too, just as it goes first with police agencies all over the country. Over 70% of all the cars operated by the nation's state police today are Fords, and no wonder. Nobody outperforms Ford. Here at the Indianapolis Speedway, a 56 Ford P8 recently set a new 500-mile record, averaging over 107 miles per hour. At Daytona Beach, Florida,
Daytona Beach, I'll show y'all.
And in Kingman, Arizona, a Ford V8 set 30 new world speed records. In performance, Ford goes first.
All right, that's part. That, by the way, was a Ford commercial. Y'all didn't get it. All right, let's see.
Next drop, a new Ford.
Are they gonna let me do it? There we go. All right, everybody says, we got the trunk. This is the trunk patrol book. Back up. Go get it. No. Okay, that was a backup patrol car. I'm gonna find it for y'all here in a minute. Allison sent me on this program, and it's a great program, but I just don't know how to navigate it.
There it is.
That it? Okay. Anyway, in the back of the patrol car, you can find, this is a roller tape right here, a fire extinguisher, a ride helmet, chains to go in your car in the wintertime, spare handcuffs, a 50-foot tape measure, a tow chain, a tire depth tread indicator, a dosimeter, and some of you folks deals with the nuclear stuff. We also dealt with the nuclear stuff some. We all had a pencil dosimeter, and some of us had the badge that measures your radiation count over a period. I will tell you, you have one badge. I taught nuclear monitoring for a while, so I had a badge. If you hold a drunk down in the x-ray so they can get a good picture of his broken arm or leg, and he's thrashing around, and they say, well, we can't get a picture until we get the picture. The doctor's not going to release it. He said, I'll hold it. And they do give you one of the big lead shield things, and you hold it. But when you stick your badge off, they pop right back up and say, Jim, where did you get all this exposure? And I say, well, I may have screwed up. They said, don't do that again. And I did. But anyway, this particular shotgun right here is the F Model 37 featherweight. We had 4 different shotguns when we came on patrol. Mine was a Remington 870. They also had Winchesters and high standards. This first aid kit right here, they issued some the same just like it back when the guys were riding a motorcycle. Spare ammo, gas mask, rain gear. This right here is fusees, or railroad flares, and we carried a case of those. And it's always good when patrol car got pinned up a little bit. They called the sergeant, tell them we'd all come gather around his car and said fusees. It looked like a Christmas tree around the time we got there. Most folks didn't recognize it. This is 36-inch rifle time. They started issuing those in '62. They used them before. Everybody I've talked to that ever had to use one, it breaks. They said when in the riots in '68, at one of the textile mills, they kept a pickup truck loaded with spares, so you break one of them, and usually you broke it over somebody, and you'll get you another one. It had a lanyard and to hold it, hand hold it. A broom for sweeping up the road. Believe it or not, we swept up the road. A shovel for shoveling out the road, and some of the stuff I shoveled, you all really wouldn't want to know that. An axe for cutting up, or cutting out, or cutting tree limbs out of the road. I've done that. I've used the axe to cut up a camper once upon a time. Had rolled over 4 times so that we could load it on a flatbed wrecker. And this interesting piece of advice right here, this is a railroad pinch bar. Thing weighed about 40 pounds. It's a piece of solid steel, had a point on one end. And we carried it as a tool. If somebody wrecked and got pinned in, we have you can pop a seat back and get them out using this thing. Problem being with it is heavy. One of the ways we used to cross the meet, we call it bootleg. You would come down the road, you'd meet a speeder, you'd walk across the meet, and when you start to come out, when anybody coming, you'd floor your car and turn the wheel, and the back end slide around. Well, if this scoundrel was loose, you'd be riding down the road and look at it, and be about this much out sticking out the back of your quarter pound. So they eventually got to the point that the mountain brackets in it, and then when 83 and 73, when they had the big fuel crises, they took a bunch of this stuff out and told us not to carry it. Some of them still did, but because I used mine. Of the 2 things most useful, the tow chain and the booster cables, because you're always running hoses out of a battery, you need a jump, or stuck in a ditch, and you couldn't afford a wrecker. So I've even used a tow chain for a trash trailer truck out of the road, because you know the trash trailer truck broke my tow chain for it all over.